The Geneva Directive by Edwina Longbottom. Chapter 1. The rain turned Warsaw's cobblestones into a mirror, reflecting the amber glow of streetlights that stretched like broken promises across the old town square. Maya Chen pressed her back against the cold brick wall of a shuttered pharmacy, counting heartbeats while she watched the cafe across the narrow street. 3 minutes past midnight, her contact was late. She rotated the burner phone in her jacket pocket, the third one this week. Standard protocol demanded a new device every 48 hours, but tonight felt different. The kind of different that made seasoned operatives disappear without paperwork. A figure emerged from the shadows near the cathedral steps. Male, mid-40s, wearing a dark wool coat that hung too perfectly to be anything but tailored. He moved with the measured pace of someone who understood that urgency and haste were different animals entirely. Maya recognized the gait before she saw his face. Dmitry Kozlov, former Spetsnaz, current freelancer with a reputation for delivering what others couldn't. She waited until he'd taken a seat at the outdoor table closest to the fountain before making her approach. The rain had driven most sensible people indoors, leaving only the desperate and the professional to conduct business under the weeping sky. "You're late," Maya said, sliding into the chair across from him. Her English carried just enough of an accent to suggest Eastern European origins without pinning down specifics, a linguistic camouflage she'd perfected over 15 years in the trade. Dmitry's eyes never left the street behind her. Traffic. He placed his hands flat on the small round table, fingers spread. The gesture looked casual, but Maya caught the subtle positioning, thumb and index finger forming an L shape. Location compromised, moved to secondary. "Shit," she nodded once, then stood as if offended by his tardiness. "Next time, don't waste mine." The words carried across the square with just enough volume to sell the performance to anyone listening. As she turned to leave, Dmitry's voice followed her. "The package you wanted, check your coat pocket." Maya's hand found the small envelope that hadn't been there 30 seconds ago. Professional to the end, even when burning a meat. She walked toward the cathedral, counting steps, waiting for the inevitable sound that would confirm her worst suspicions. 2 black sedans rounded the corner simultaneously, their headlights cutting through the rain like searchlights. Maya broke into a run, abandoning all pretense of casual behavior. Behind her, she heard Dmitry's chair scrape against stone, then the distinctive whistle of air being displaced by something moving very fast. The first gunshot cracked across the square like a whip. Maya's training kicked in with muscle memory precision. She zigzagged toward the cathedral steps, using parked cars and architectural features to break line of sight. The envelope in her pocket felt heavier than it should have. Whatever intelligence Dmitry had died to deliver, it was worth killing for. More gunshots. The distinctive pop, pop, pop of suppressed weapons, mixed with the sharper crack of unsuppressed rounds. Someone was shooting back, which meant Dmitry had brought his own insurance policy. Good, it would buy her precious seconds. She reached the cathedral's massive wooden doors and pressed herself against the ancient oak. Her breath came in controlled bursts, 4 counts in, 4 counts out. Panic was a luxury she couldn't afford, not with 3 years of undercover work hanging in the balance. The shooting stopped. In the sudden silence, Maya could hear her own pulse hammering against her eardrums and the soft patter of rain on stone. She risked a glance around the doorframe. Dmitry lay motionless beside the overturned table, dark liquid pooling beneath him that wasn't rainwater. 2 men in tactical gear were searching his body with professional efficiency. A third scanned the square with an assault rifle, muzzle tracking left to right in steady arcs. Static crackled from a handheld radio. Target eliminated, package not recovered, secondary target mobile. Secondary target, they knew about her. Maya's mind raced through possibilities. The meet had been arranged through encrypted channels, verified with code phrases that changed daily. Either someone had broken their communications, unlikely, or someone inside had burned them. The thought sat in her stomach like swallowed glass. She needed to move. The cathedral offered temporary sanctuary, but these weren't amateur thugs. They'd have the exits covered within minutes, probably had Overwatch positioned on nearby rooftops already. Standard urban kill team deployment. The envelope crinkled as she shifted position. Whatever Dmitri had passed her, people were willing to commit murder in the middle of Warsaw to get it back. That made it either incredibly valuable or incredibly dangerous. Possibly both. A new sound reached her ears, the low rumble of motorcycle engines approaching from the east. Maya smiled grimly. Her extraction team, finally earning their retainer. She'd arranged the backup before the meet, a precaution that was looking increasingly prescient. The tactical team heard the motorcycles too. Shouts echoed across the square as they repositioned, abandoning their search of Dmitri's body to face the new threat. Maya used the distraction to slip through the cathedral's side entrance, her lockpicks making quick work of the ancient mechanism. Inside, the air smelled of incense and secrets. Candles flickered in red glass holders, casting dancing shadows on stone walls that had witnessed 8 centuries of prayer and conspiracy. Maya moved through the nave like a ghost, her soft-soled boots silent on the worn flagstones. The envelope felt like it was burning a hole in her pocket. She needed to examine its contents, but not here. Not yet. First, she had to survive the next 10 minutes. Outside, the sound of gunfire resumed, sharper now, more intense. Her extraction team was earning their pay. Maya reached the rear of the cathedral and found the door she'd scouted 3 days earlier. It led to an alley that connected to the city's underground tunnel system, a relic of World War II that few people remembered and fewer still could navigate. As she prepared to leave the sanctuary of stone and shadow, Maya allowed herself one final glance at the altar. If there was a god watching over Warsaw tonight, he had a twisted sense of humor. The real question wasn't whether she'd survive the night. The question was whether she'd live long enough to discover who had just tried to kill her and why. Chapter 2. The alley behind the cathedral reeked of piss and rotting vegetables. Maya pressed her back against the cold stone wall, listening to the gunfight rage in the square beyond. Her extraction team was buying her time with their lives, and she couldn't waste it. The envelope in her jacket pocket felt heavier than it should. She pulled it out, fingers trembling slightly from adrenaline rather than fear. The paper was expensive, thick, cream-colored stock that whispered of government offices and classified briefings. No postmark, no return address, just her operational code name written in Dmitri's careful script, Nightingale. She tore it open. Inside were 3 items that made her blood run cold: a photograph, a USB drive, and a single sheet of letterhead from the Geneva Convention Oversight Committee. The photograph showed a man she recognized, Senator James Crawford, chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. He was shaking hands with someone whose face had been carefully obscured, but Maya could see enough of the background to place the location: the Hotel Metropole in Moscow, 3 months ago. The letterhead bore an official seal and a single typed line: Operation Blackwater, authorized under Article 19, subsection 7. Maya had never heard of Operation Blackwater, but Article 19 of the Geneva Conventions dealt with the treatment of prisoners of war. Subsection 7 was the escape clause, the legal framework that allowed signatory nations to suspend humanitarian protections in cases of extraordinary national security imperatives. Someone was planning a war crime, and they'd just murdered Dmitri to keep it secret. Footsteps echoed from the mouth of the alley. Maya pocketed the evidence and moved deeper into the shadows, her hand finding the grip of the Sig Sauer holstered beneath her jacket. The footsteps were measured, professional, not the hurried gait of a panicked civilian. A figure appeared at the alley entrance, silhouetted against the distant streetlights. Male, medium build, moving with the fluid confidence of someone who'd done this before. He held a pistol in a 2-handed grip, muzzle tracking the shadows methodically. Maya held her breath and waited. The man advanced slowly, checking doorways and refuse bins with practiced efficiency. When he was 10 feet away, she could see his face clearly: Slavic features, close-cropped hair, the kind of dead eyes that came from too many wet operations. He was good, but not good enough. Maya had been playing this game since she was 19, when the agency had recruited her out of MIT's computer science program. 14 years of tradecraft had taught her that patience was deadlier than any weapon. The man passed her hiding spot without seeing her. Maya waited until he'd moved another 5 feet, then struck. She came out of the shadows like a wraith, her left hand clamping over his mouth, while her right arm snaked around his throat in a blood choke. The man tried to bring his pistol to bear, but Maya had already trapped his gun arm against his body. They went down together, hard stones scraping against leather and flesh. Quiet, keep it quiet. The man was stronger than her, but Maya had leverage and surprise. She tightened the choke, feeling his carotid artery compress under the pressure. He thrashed for 30 seconds, then went limp. Maya held the position for another 10 seconds to ensure unconsciousness, then rolled him over and zip-tied his hands with plastic restraints from her tactical kit. His pistol was a Makarov, Russian manufacture, well-maintained. She ejected the magazine and cleared the chamber, pocketing the ammunition. The man's wallet contained a Polish driver's license that was almost certainly fake, 2,000 euros in mixed denominations, and a business card for a security consulting firm in Prague. Maya photographed everything with her encrypted phone, then searched his pockets more thoroughly. In his left jacket pocket, she found something that made her stomach clench, a second photograph, this one showing her entering the cathedral 20 minutes ago. The image quality was excellent, shot with professional telephoto equipment from an elevated position. They'd been watching her long before the meet with Dmitri. Thunder rolled across Warsaw as the storm intensified. Rain began falling harder, turning the alley's accumulated grime into a slick, treacherous mess. Maya needed to move. The unconscious man would wake up within the hour, and his absence would be noticed long before then. She pulled out her encrypted satellite phone and dialed a number she'd memorized but never used. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Bookstore. I need a consultation," Maya said, using the agreed-upon code phrase. "Something rare. First edition." "How rare are we talking?" "Gutenberg Bible rare." A pause. When the voice returned, it carried a new edge of concern. "That's going to cost extra. Where's the pickup?" Maya gave him the coordinates for a safe house in Warsaw's Prague district, then ended the call. Marcus Webb had been her handler for 3 years, long enough to know that she didn't cry wolf. If she was calling in an emergency extraction, the situation was genuinely fucked. The gunfire from the square had stopped. Either her extraction team had neutralized the tactical squad, or they were all dead. Maya suspected the latter. Professional kill teams didn't go down easy, and motorcycle-mounted operators were at a significant disadvantage in urban firefights. She needed to assume she was alone. The rain was coming down in sheets now, turning Warsaw's ancient streets into rivers of runoff. Maya pulled up her jacket hood and stepped out of the alley, moving with the careful nonchalance of someone who had every right to be walking through a city center at midnight. 2 blocks from the cathedral, she passed a newspaper kiosk where tomorrow's headlines were already posted behind rain-streaked glass. The lead story made her blood freeze. American senator killed in Moscow hotel fire. Senator James Crawford was dead, the same man whose photograph she carried in her pocket, shaking hands with an unknown contact just 3 months ago. The timing wasn't coincidental. In Maya's world, there were no coincidences. Someone was cleaning house, eliminating everyone connected to Operation Blackwater. Dmitri had been first, Crawford was second, which raised the obvious question: where did that leave her on the kill list? Chapter 3. Maya stared at the newspaper headline until the words blurred in the rain-streaked glass. Senator Crawford's death meant the conspiracy had reached Washington, and whoever was orchestrating this cleanup operation had resources that extended far beyond Eastern European black markets. A black sedan pulled up to the curb 30 meters behind her. Maya caught the movement in the kiosk's reflection and immediately shifted into operational mode. She pulled out her phone and pretended to check messages while tracking the vehicle's occupants. 2 men in the front seat, both scanning the street with practiced efficiency. The passenger was speaking into a radio handset. They weren't trying to be subtle anymore. Maya pocketed her phone and started walking toward the Vistula River, keeping her pace casual but purposeful. The safe house was 12 blocks east, but she couldn't lead a surveillance team directly there. She needed to lose them first, and Warsaw's medieval old town provided plenty of opportunities for someone who knew the terrain. The sedan crawled along behind her, maintaining a 100-meter buffer. Maya turned right onto Krakowskie Przedmieście, then left into a narrow side street lined with darkened cafes and boutique shops. The rain had driven most pedestrians indoors, leaving the cobblestones slick and treacherous underfoot. Her footsteps echoed off the surrounding buildings, creating an acoustic signature that would be easy to track. Maya slipped off her leather boots and continued barefoot, the cold stone sending shocks up through her legs. The silence was immediate and absolute. At the next intersection, she ducked into a recessed doorway and waited. The sedan appeared 15 seconds later, moving slowly as the occupants tried to reacquire their target. Maya pressed herself deeper into the shadows as the vehicle passed, close enough to see the driver's face illuminated by his dashboard display. Slavic features, military haircut, earpiece, professional surveillance, not street criminals. When the sedan disappeared around the next corner, Maya emerged from cover and doubled back toward the river. She had maybe 3 minutes before they realized they'd lost her and expanded their search pattern. The smart play was to find a crowd and blend in, but Warsaw's nightlife district was 6 blocks away and crawling with security cameras. Instead, she headed for the construction zone near the royal castle. The renovation project had been ongoing for 2 years, leaving a maze of scaffolding, equipment trailers, and excavation sites that would confuse any pursuit team. Maya climbed over a chain-link fence and dropped into the work area, landing silently on a pile of sand. A piece of scaffolding shifted under her weight, sending a metallic clank echoing through the construction site. Maya froze, listening for any response. Nothing. She moved deeper into the maze of steel pipes and plastic sheeting, using the industrial debris as cover while she planned her next move. Her encrypted phone vibrated with an incoming text. Package delivered. Customer satisfaction guaranteed. The message was from a number she didn't recognize, but the phrasing matched Marcus's communication protocols. Her extraction team was in position at the safe house. Maya was about to respond when she heard voices from the street. 2 men speaking Russian in low, urgent tones. They'd found the construction site and were discussing how to proceed. One of them mentioned bringing in additional units to establish a perimeter. She had to move now. Maya picked up a length of steel rebar from the ground and tested its weight. 18 inches long, solid construction-grade metal. Not her preferred weapon, but it would do. She crept toward the fence line, staying low behind a concrete mixer. The first man appeared at the fence opening, silhouetted against the streetlights. He was carrying a compact submachine gun, an MP5K or similar model, and swept the construction zone with practiced efficiency. Maya waited until he'd committed to entering the site, then struck. The rebar caught him across the temple with a wet, hollow sound. He dropped without making a noise, his weapon clattering onto the concrete. Maya grabbed the MP5K and checked the magazine. 28 rounds, plus 1 in the chamber. She dragged the unconscious man behind a pile of construction materials and zip-tied his hands. The second man was calling his partner's name from the street. Maya positioned herself near the fence opening and waited. When he appeared, she put the MP5K's barrel against his neck and whispered in Russian, "Drop the weapon and walk away. This is your only warning." He was either braver or stupider than his partner. Instead of complying, he tried to spin and bring his pistol to bear. Maya pulled the trigger once, a single suppressed shot that dropped him where he stood. The sound was no louder than a book slamming shut. The rain intensified, washing blood from the concrete and providing acoustic cover for her escape. Maya searched the dead man's pockets and found a radio, a spare magazine, and a photograph that made her stomach clench. It showed her entering the construction site 5 minutes ago, taken with night vision equipment from an elevated position. They had Overwatch. Someone was coordinating this surveillance operation from a command post with real-time intelligence feeds. Maya was being hunted by professionals with unlimited resources and no apparent concern for collateral damage. She climbed out of the construction site and headed toward the Prague district, staying in the shadows and avoiding main thoroughfares. The safe house was still 8 blocks away, but she couldn't risk leading more surveillance teams there. Instead, she ducked into an all-night internet cafe and bought 30 minutes of computer time with cash. The headlines on every major news site confirmed her worst fears. Senator Crawford's death in Moscow was being reported as a tragic accident, a hotel fire caused by faulty electrical wiring. But Maya knew the truth. Crawford had been eliminated because of what he'd learned about Operation Blackwater, just like Dmitri, which meant Maya was carrying information that people were willing to kill for. She pulled out the photograph of Crawford and his unknown contact, studying the background details she'd missed earlier. The meeting had taken place in what looked like a hotel bar, with distinctive Art Deco fixtures visible behind the two men. Maya ran a reverse image search and found a match within seconds: the Metropole Hotel in Moscow, 3 blocks from Red Square. The same hotel where Crawford had died. Maya's hands were shaking as she logged out of the computer and headed for the door. Whatever Operation Blackwater involved, it was big enough to reach the highest levels of the American government, and deadly enough that someone was systematically eliminating everyone who knew about it, including her. Chapter 4. Maya stepped out of the internet cafe into the rain-soaked Warsaw night, her mind racing through the implications of what she'd discovered. The photograph linking Crawford to the Metropole Hotel wasn't coincidence. It was evidence of a conspiracy that reached into the heart of American intelligence operations. She needed to move. The longer she stayed in one location, the more time her hunters had to triangulate her position. Maya pulled her hood up and started walking east toward the Vistula River, taking random turns to break any surveillance pattern. Her training kicked in automatically. Check reflections in storefront windows, monitor pedestrian behavior, identify potential escape routes. The streets of Prague were quieter than the city center, lined with communist-era apartment blocks and small businesses that had closed hours ago. Maya's footsteps echoed off wet concrete as she made her way through narrow side streets, avoiding the main arteries where surveillance cameras clustered like electronic spiders. Her phone buzzed. Maya pulled it out carefully, expecting another burner message from her handler, but the screen showed an unknown number with a Polish country code. The text was in English. Construction site was messy. Clean up your act or we clean up you. Maya's blood went cold. Someone had found the bodies already. They were watching her in real time, probably tracking her phone signal. She powered down the device and pulled out the battery, then dropped both pieces into separate storm drains as she crossed the next intersection. The rain was getting heavier, turning the streets into rivers of runoff that carried cigarette butts and urban debris toward the Vistula. Maya ducked into a 24-hour laundromat and sat in the back corner, using the industrial noise of washing machines to mask her breathing while she processed the situation. The surveillance team at the construction site had been prepared for her arrival. That meant either her safe house was compromised, or someone with access to her operational details was feeding information to hostile actors. Maya ran through the possibilities. Her handler Marcus could be dirty, the CIA station chief in Warsaw might have been turned, or there could be a mole somewhere in the intelligence community with access to Operation Blackwater files. But the photograph suggested something deeper. If Crawford had been meeting with foreign contacts about Blackwater before his death, then the operation itself might be the source of the leak. Maya needed to identify the man in the photograph with Crawford, but that would require resources she didn't have access to while running dark. A television mounted in the corner of the laundromat was showing CNN International with Polish subtitles. The Crawford story had evolved. Now there were reports of a second American official found dead in Moscow, a State Department liaison named Richard Holloway, who'd allegedly suffered a heart attack in his hotel room the same night as Crawford's accident. Maya recognized the pattern. 2 deaths, same city, same time frame, both connected to American intelligence operations in Eastern Europe. Someone was cleaning house, eliminating anyone who might expose Operation Blackwater to public scrutiny. She needed to get out of Warsaw. The city was becoming a trap, with surveillance teams closing in from multiple directions. But first, she had to retrieve the emergency cache she'd established 3 months ago during her initial deployment to Poland. Maya waited until the laundromat's only other customer, an elderly woman folding clothes with methodical precision, had finished her business and left. Then she moved to the front window and studied the street for 10 minutes, looking for stationary vehicles, pedestrians who appeared too alert, or any other indicators of surveillance. The street appeared clear, but Maya knew that professional surveillance teams were nearly invisible when properly deployed. She would have to assume they were out there and act accordingly. The rain had lightened to a steady drizzle as Maya left the laundromat and headed towards Skarashevsky Park. Her emergency cash was buried near the old Soviet memorial, hidden inside a waterproof container that held clean documents, currency, and a backup communication device. The park was dark and empty at this hour, with only occasional streetlights casting yellow pools of illumination through the mist. Maya moved carefully between the trees, using natural cover to mask her approach to the memorial site. Her boots made soft, squelching sounds in the wet grass as she navigated around puddles and fallen branches. The memorial was a granite obelisk surrounded by formal gardens that had been neglected since the fall of communism. Maya counted off paces from the base of the monument, then knelt beside a particular rosebush and began digging with a folding knife from her jacket pocket. The container was exactly where she'd left it, sealed and intact. Inside were 3 passports with different identities, 5,000 euros in various currencies, a satellite phone with encrypted capabilities, and a .380 pistol with 2 spare magazines. Maya pocketed the cash and one of the passports, Canadian, with the name Sarah Mitchell, then activated the satellite phone. She needed to make contact with someone outside the normal intelligence channels, someone who might have independent information about Operation Blackwater. The call connected after 4 rings. A gravelly voice answered in German-accented English. "This line is not secure." "I know," Maya replied, "but I need information about an American operation called Blackwater. People are dying, and I think you might know why." There was a long pause. Maya could hear traffic noise in the background, suggesting her contact was in an urban environment, probably European based on the engine sounds. "Meet me in Berlin," the voice said finally. "Checkpoint Charlie Museum, tomorrow at 1400 hours. Come alone and bring proof of what you're claiming." The line went dead. Maya stared at the phone for a moment, then powered it down and buried it with the remaining contents of the cache. Berlin was 8 hours away by train, assuming she could get across the border without triggering alerts in the intelligence databases. But first, she needed to survive the night in Warsaw, and based on the escalating surveillance pressure, that was going to require all of her professional skills and a significant amount of luck. The sound of approaching vehicles echoed through the park from multiple directions. Chapter 5. Maya pressed herself against the memorial's granite base as headlights swept through the park from 3 different directions. Professional formation. They were boxing her in with coordinated timing that spoke of extensive surveillance training. No amateur hour bullshit here. She counted the vehicles by their engine notes. 2 sedans approaching from the main entrance, 1 SUV coming through the service road near the memorial. That left the eastern perimeter potentially open, but only if she moved fast and kept low through the formal gardens. The .380 felt reassuring in her grip as she chambered around and clicked off the safety. 17 rounds total between the weapon and spare magazines, enough for a running firefight if she was smart about target selection and didn't waste ammunition on suppressive fire. Boot steps approached through the wet grass from multiple directions. Maya counted at least 6 different gates, a full tactical team, probably ex-military, judging by their movement discipline. They were spreading out in a classic search pattern. Using hand signals she could barely make out in the dim streetlight filtering through the trees. She had maybe 30 seconds before they reached her position. Maya rolled left behind the memorial and low-crawled toward a cluster of ornamental shrubs 20 meters away. The wet ground soaked through her jacket immediately, but the sound of her movement was masked by the steady drizzle and the rustle of leaves overhead. A flashlight beam swept across the space she'd just vacated. "Target's mobile," someone whispered in accented English. "Eastern European, possibly Czech or Slovak based on the vowel sounds. Expanding search perimeter." Maya reached the shrubs and peered through the branches. The tactical team was professional but not perfect. They were bunching up slightly near the memorial instead of maintaining proper spacing. That gave her an opportunity if she was willing to take the risk. She pulled one of the spare magazines from her pocket and hurled it toward the park's main path, where it landed with a metallic clatter against a bench. Two of the searchers immediately moved toward the sound, their flashlights converging on the bench. Maya used the distraction to sprint across an open patch of grass toward the tree line, keeping her head down and her feet light on the soggy turf. A shout erupted behind her. "Movement, east perimeter!" Muzzle flashes strobed through the darkness as automatic weapons opened fire. Bark exploded from trees around Maya as she dove behind a thick oak trunk, feeling splinters pepper her jacket. The firing was disciplined, short bursts aimed at where she'd been, not wild spraying that would waste ammunition. These weren't intelligence operatives playing at soldier. They were actual military contractors, probably hired muscle with combat experience in places like Afghanistan or Iraq. Maya counted the seconds between bursts, timing the reload cycles. When she heard the distinctive pause of a magazine change, she broke cover and sprinted deeper into the trees, zigzagging between trunks to spoil their aim. More gunfire erupted, but the shots were going wide now. They were shooting at movement and muzzle flash, not acquiring proper sight pictures in the darkness. She reached the park's eastern fence and vaulted over the chain-link barrier, landing hard on the sidewalk beyond. Her left ankle twisted slightly on impact, sending a sharp pain up her leg, but nothing felt torn or broken. A black sedan was idling at the curb 50 meters away, engine running and driver door open. Maya could see a figure behind the wheel, silhouetted against the dashboard lights. Another trap or genuine extraction. The decision was made for her when gunfire resumed from inside the park. Bullets whined off the pavement near her feet as the tactical team reached the fence line. Maya sprinted toward the sedan, keeping the .380 ready, but not aimed directly at the driver. If this was a setup, she'd know in the next 10 seconds. "Get in." The driver was a woman, maybe 40, with short cropped hair and the kind of situational awareness that came from years of field work. "Now, before they bring up the helicopters." Maya dove into the passenger seat as the sedan accelerated away from the curb. Through the rear window, she could see flashlight beams sweeping the fence line as the tactical team realized their target had escaped the immediate perimeter. "Who the fuck are you?" Maya kept the pistol in her lap, not quite pointing it at the driver, but making its presence clear. "Someone who's been watching this operation go sideways for the past week," the woman replied, taking a sharp right turn that threw Maya against the door. "My name's Elena Kozlov. I work for people who have a vested interest in keeping you alive long enough to testify about what you've seen." "Testify to who?" "The International Criminal Court, assuming we can get you to The Hague without getting killed." Elena checked the rearview mirror, then made another turn onto a main thoroughfare. "Your friend Marcus Webb wasn't the only one documenting war crimes in Operation Blackwater. There are other witnesses, other evidence, but someone's been systematically eliminating anyone who might talk." Maya felt a cold certainty settle in her stomach. "How do you know about Marcus?" "Because I was supposed to extract him from Prague 3 days ago. Instead, I found his body in a hotel bathtub with 2 bullets in the back of his head." Elena's voice carried the flat, emotional tone of someone who'd seen too much death in too many places. Professional execution, designed to look like a robbery gone wrong. The sedan's headlights illuminated a highway sign, Berlin 520 kilometers. "That's where we're going?" Maya asked. "First stop. Then we disappear until the tribunal can provide proper protection." Elena glanced at Maya's reflection in the side mirror. "Assuming, of course, that you're willing to tell the world what really happened in those Syrian villages. Because right now, you're the only living witness who can connect Operation Blackwater to the people who authorized it." Maya stared out at the dark Polish countryside, rushing past the windows, thinking about Marcus Webb's body in a Prague hotel bathtub and the tactical team that had just tried to kill her in a public park. Elena's phone buzzed against the dashboard. She glanced at the screen, and her expression hardened. "What is it?" Maya asked. "Change of plans. Berlin's compromised. We're going to need a different route. Chapter 6. Elena killed the headlights and pulled off the main highway onto a gravel access road that disappeared into dense forest. The sedan's engine ticked as it cooled, the only sound besides Maya's controlled breathing and the distant hum of traffic they'd left behind. How long do we wait here? Maya kept her voice low, though the nearest civilization was probably 5 kilometers back, until I figure out who burned Berlin. Elena pulled out a different phone, her third since they'd left Warsaw, and began typing with practiced efficiency. The safe house address went out over encrypted channels to exactly 4 people. One of them is feeding intelligence to whoever wants you dead. Maya watched Elena work, noting the way she held the device at an angle that prevented screen glare from illuminating her face. Professional habits that kept you alive in a business where careless, light discipline got people killed. You said there were other witnesses. Where are they now? Dead, mostly. Elena didn't look up from the phone. Dr. Maya Chen, the MSF coordinator who documented civilian casualties in Al-Hasaka, car accident in Geneva 2 weeks ago. Captain Rodriguez from the 82nd Airborne who had photos of the phosphorus strikes, apparent suicide in his apartment in Fort Bragg, and now Marcus. The methodical elimination of anyone who could testify about Operation Blackwater painted a picture Maya didn't want to complete. Someone with serious resources is cleaning house. Someone with access to intelligence networks, military personnel files, and the kind of operational reach that spans 3 continents. Elena's phone buzzed with an incoming message. She read it, then immediately removed the battery and SIM card. Shit. What? My contact in Berlin is dead, shot in his apartment 6 hours ago. Elena tossed the phone components out the window into the underbrush. They're not just cleaning up witnesses anymore. They're eliminating the entire network. A cold wind moved through the pine trees surrounding their position, carrying the scent of rain and the promise of a storm moving in from the west. Maya felt the weight of isolation settle around them, 2 women with nowhere safe to run, hunted by an organization with apparently unlimited resources and reach. So what's the play? Maya asked. Keep running until they pick us off one by one? No. Elena started the engine but kept the headlights off, using only the ambient starlight to navigate back toward the access road. We stop running and start hunting. Hunting who? The person who's been orchestrating this cleanup operation. Someone with access to classified intelligence, operational authority, and detailed knowledge of everyone who was involved in documenting Blackwater. Elena turned onto a secondary road that wound through farmland toward a cluster of lights in the distance. Someone who knew exactly when and where to find Marcus in Prague. Maya felt pieces clicking into place. Fragments of intelligence reports, operational briefings, and classified communications she'd intercepted during her months embedded with Special Operations Command. You think it's someone inside the Pentagon? I think it's someone who had access to the original Blackwater operational parameters and knew which personnel were assigned to document the strikes for legal review. Elena's voice carried the certainty of someone who'd spent years tracking intelligence leaks through bureaucratic networks. Someone who could identify potential witnesses before they even knew they were witnesses. The farmland gave way to industrial outskirts, warehouses, freight yards, and the kind of anonymous commercial buildings where serious conversations happened away from official oversight. Elena pulled into the parking lot of a closed trucking company and positioned the sedan behind a shipping container where it wouldn't be visible from the road. There's someone I need to contact, she said, pulling out yet another phone. Someone who might have answers about who's been cleaning house. Another intelligence contact, my former handler at Langley. If anyone knows which Pentagon officials had access to Blackwater documentation, it's him. Elena hesitated, finger poised over the phone's keypad. The problem is, contacting him puts him at risk, and us if he's already compromised. Maya studied Elena's profile in the dim light reflected from distant street lamps. The careful way she weighed operational security against the need for information. The professional paranoia that kept her alive but made trust nearly impossible. How long have you been running operations like this? 15 years. Started in Afghanistan, moved to Eastern Europe after the drawdown. Elena finally dialed the number, then put the phone on speaker so Maya could hear both sides of the conversation. Most of that time spent cleaning up messes that officially never happened. The phone rang twice before a gravelly voice answered. "Elena? Jesus Christ, where the hell are you?" "Somewhere safe, for the moment." "David, I need information about Operation Blackwater. Specifically, who had access to witness identification files." A long pause. "That's not a conversation for an open line. The witnesses are dead, David. All of them, except one. Someone's been systematically eliminating anyone who could testify about what happened in Syria." Another pause, longer this time. Maya could hear papers shuffling in the background, then the sound of a door closing. "Meet me tomorrow night, Prague, the old location. Come alone." Prague's where they killed Marcus Webb, which is exactly why they won't expect you to go back there. "Midnight, Elena, and watch your back. There are people asking questions about you at very high levels." The line went dead. Elena stared at the phone for a long moment, then removed the battery and SIM card with mechanical precision. "Prague," she said finally, "where this whole fucking mess started." Maya felt the familiar weight of operational necessity, the moment when all available choices led through dangerous territory toward an uncertain outcome. "You trust him?" "I trust him more than I trust anyone else who's still alive." Elena started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot, heading back toward the main highway. But in this business, that's not saying much. As they drove through the Polish countryside toward whatever waited in Prague, Maya understood that they were no longer running from their pursuers. They were walking directly into the heart of a conspiracy that had already killed everyone else who knew the truth about Operation Blackwater. The only question was whether they'd live long enough to expose it. Chapter 7. The drive to Prague took 8 hours through back roads that Elena navigated from memory, avoiding toll cameras and border checkpoints that might flag their passage. Maya dozed fitfully in the passenger seat, waking periodically to the sound of Elena switching phones or the subtle shift in engine tone as they changed highways. They crossed into Czech Republic at dawn through a rural crossing point where the guard barely glanced at their documents. Elena had produced new passports during a brief stop at a rest area. Maya didn't ask where they'd been hidden in the sedan. "The old location David mentioned," Maya said as Prague's skyline appeared through morning haze. "What is it?" "Abandoned brewery in Vinohrady district. We used it for dead drops during the Petrov operation 3 years ago." Elena's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "Before everything went to shit. They found a hotel in Wenceslas Square, the kind of place that took cash and didn't ask questions about checkout times. Elena paid for 2 rooms, but Maya noticed she only took 1 key card. "You're not planning to sleep," Maya observed. "Neither are you. We've got 14 hours to prepare for a meeting that's either going to give us the intelligence we need or get us both killed." Maya understood the operational calculus. In Prague, they were no longer running, they were hunting. The distinction changed everything about how they moved, what risks they accepted, what preparations they made. Elena spread a detailed city map across the hotel room's small table and began marking locations with a red pen. The brewery has 3 access points: main entrance on Korunny Street, service entrance on the east side, and a loading dock that connects to the old tunnel system. Escape routes, 2 that I know of, maybe 3 if the construction on Vinohrady hasn't blocked the storm drains. Elena circled several buildings surrounding the brewery. But David chose this location for a reason. He knows the terrain as well as I do. Maya studied the map, noting sightlines and choke points. "Assuming he's still the person you think he is." "Assuming that, yes." Elena's voice carried the weight of professional skepticism. "But we'll know within the first 30 seconds of contact." They spent the afternoon conducting surveillance of the brewery from multiple angles, using public transportation and foot reconnaissance to map current security conditions. The building had been abandoned for 5 years. Windows boarded, graffiti-covered walls, the kind of urban decay that provided excellent cover for clandestine meetings. At 6 p.m., they returned to the hotel to finalize their approach plan. Elena had acquired additional equipment during their reconnaissance: night vision scopes, communication earpieces, and what appeared to be explosive charges small enough to fit in her jacket pocket. Where did you? Prague has excellent shopping opportunities for people who know where to look. Elena checked the action on her Glock, then holstered it beneath her left arm. The question isn't where I got the equipment, it's whether we'll need to use it. Maya strapped on her shoulder holster and tested the earpiece connection. The familiar weight of operational gear felt both reassuring and ominous. What's the worst-case scenario? David's been turned, this is a trap, and we walk into a kill box with no way out. Elena's matter-of-fact delivery made the words more chilling. Best case, he has actionable intelligence about who's been cleaning house, and we can finally go on the offensive. And most likely scenario, something in between that gets messy very quickly.
They left the hotel at 10 p.m., taking separate routes to the brewery. Maya approached from the north, using the cover of construction scaffolding and parked vehicles to mask her movement. Elena would enter from the service entrance, giving them overlapping fields of fire if the meeting went sideways. The brewery loomed against the Prague skyline like a monument to industrial decay. Maya counted windows, memorized doorways, identified potential sniper positions in surrounding buildings. Standard urban reconnaissance, but with the added weight of knowing that Marcus Webb had died in this city conducting similar operations. Her earpiece crackled with Elena's voice. In position, no movement visible from the east approach. Maya keyed her mic twice in acknowledgement and continued her approach to the main entrance. The street was empty except for a few late-night pedestrians and the distant sound of traffic from busier commercial districts. At 11:45 p.m., she spotted the first sign of surveillance, a figure in a doorway across from the brewery, positioned to observe anyone entering or leaving the building. Professional placement, good concealment, but visible to someone who knew what to look for. Elena, we have watchers, at least one, probably more. Confirmed. I count 2 vehicles with occupants parked within 3 blocks. This could be David's security or someone else's. Maya felt the familiar pre-contact tension, the moment when intelligence gathering shifted to direct action, when careful planning met unpredictable human variables.
At exactly midnight, the brewery's main door opened and a figure emerged into the weak illumination of a nearby street lamp. Maya recognized David Kellerman from Elena's description. Tall, silver-haired, moving with the careful precision of someone who'd spent decades in hostile territory. He walked to the center of the empty street and raised his right hand, fingers spread, the agreed-upon recognition signal. Maya was about to respond when she noticed something wrong with his movement pattern. Too rigid, too controlled, either extreme operational discipline or someone moving under duress. Elena, something's off about David's approach. The sniper's bullet caught Kellerman's center mass, spinning him around before he collapsed to the asphalt. Maya dove for cover behind a parked car as muzzle flashes erupted from 3 separate positions around the brewery. It's a fucking trap. Elena's voice crackled through the earpiece. Multiple shooters, professional placement. David never made it to the meeting. Maya drew her Glock and prepared for the kind of urban firefight that would determine whether Operation Blackwater's last witnesses lived to see morning. Chapter 8. Maya's world compressed to muzzle flashes and concrete fragments as bullets chewed apart the car's bodywork above her head. The ambush had been expertly coordinated, overlapping fields of fire, multiple elevated positions, professional timing. David Kellerman's body lay motionless in the street, blood pooling beneath him in the pale streetlight. Elena, status! Maya barked into her mic while ejecting her Glock's magazine to check her ammunition count. 15 rounds remaining. Pinned down at the service entrance, at least 3 shooters with automatic weapons. This isn't cleanup, this is extermination. Maya counted muzzle flashes from her position. 2 shooters in upper-story windows, 1 ground-level position near the brewery entrance, possibly more she hadn't spotted. Professional spacing, disciplined fire control. These weren't street thugs or corrupt police. This was military-grade opposition. A round sparked off the car's hood inches from her face, showering her with metal fragments. Maya rolled left, using the vehicle's engine block for better protection, while scanning for movement patterns in the enemy fire. The shooters were coordinating their volleys, maintaining suppressive fire while repositioning. "We need to break contact," Elena's voice came through static. "This position is untenable." Maya agreed, but breaking contact meant abandoning any chance of recovering David's intelligence, if he'd actually possessed any. The entire operation could have been a setup from the beginning, designed to eliminate the last witnesses to Operation Blackwater's true purpose. She spotted movement in a second-floor window across the street, a figure adjusting position behind what looked like a scoped rifle. The same sniper who'd dropped David. Maya lined up her sights on the window frame and waited. The sniper's muzzle appeared first, followed by the distinctive outline of a rifle scope. Maya squeezed off 3 quick rounds, watching glass explode from the window. The return fire from that position ceased immediately. "One down," she reported, already moving to a new position as automatic weapons fire raked her previous cover. The sustained gunfire had triggered vehicle alarms throughout the street, creating a cacophony that would draw police attention within minutes. Maya needed to reach Elena's position and extract before local authorities arrived and complicated an already impossible situation. She sprinted between parked cars, using their bulk to mask her movement while closing distance on the brewery's service entrance. Halfway there, she spotted Elena pressed against the building's brick wall, returning fire at a ground-level position near the main entrance. "Cover me," Maya shouted, then broke from concealment in a dead run toward Elena's position. The remaining shooters shifted their fire toward her movement, bullets striking pavement and vehicle metal in a staccato rhythm that reminded Maya of hail on a tin roof. She dove behind a delivery truck just as Elena opened up with sustained fire, forcing the enemy to seek cover. "How many rounds do you have left?" Elena asked as Maya slid into position beside her. 12 you? 8. Not enough for a prolonged engagement." Maya peered around the truck's bumper, studying the tactical situation. The remaining shooters held superior positions with better fields of fire, but they were also trapped in static positions as long as Maya and Elena maintained their current cover. A stalemate that would end badly when ammunition ran out or police arrived. "David's body," Maya said suddenly. "We need to check if he's carrying anything." "Too exposed. The sniper will have that area zeroed. The sniper's down. I put 3 rounds through his window." Elena looked skeptical. "You sure about that?" Police sirens echoed off Prague's ancient buildings, growing louder with each passing second. Maya estimated 3 minutes before the first patrol units arrived, maybe 5 before tactical teams secured the area. "We're out of time," Elena said. "Extract now or we're explaining this to Czech authorities." Maya knew Elena was right, but leaving David's body meant losing any chance of understanding who had orchestrated Operation Blackwater's cover-up. The dead CIA operative might be carrying documents, communications, or other intelligence that could identify the conspiracy's architects. 30 seconds, Maya decided. "Cover me while I check David's body, then we extract together." "Maya, that's suicide." Maya was already moving, sprinting across the open street toward Kellerman's motionless form. Automatic weapons fire erupted from 2 positions, bullets striking asphalt around her feet as she dove behind David's body. The CIA operative was definitely dead. Center mass hit from a high-velocity rifle, probably .308 caliber based on the wound characteristics. Maya quickly searched his jacket pockets, finding a wallet, smartphone, and a small leather notebook. She pocketed the notebook without examining it, then checked David's shoulder holster. Empty. His weapon had been removed, probably by his handlers before the meeting. But taped to the inside of his jacket was a micro SD card, barely larger than a fingernail. "Got something," Maya called to Elena while prying the card free. Heavy footsteps echoed from the brewery's interior, reinforcements moving to flank their position. Maya scrambled back toward Elena's cover as muzzle flashes erupted from the building's windows. "Time to go." Elena grabbed Maya's arm and pulled her toward a narrow alley between buildings. "Czech police will be here in 2 minutes." They ran through Prague's maze of medieval streets, putting distance between themselves and the firefight, while sirens converged on the brewery district. Maya clutched the micro SD card in her left hand, feeling its tiny weight like a talisman. Whatever David Kellerman had died trying to deliver, It was now their responsibility to decode and act upon. The conspiracy behind Operation Blackwater had tried to eliminate all witnesses, but they'd failed. Maya and Elena were still alive, still operational, and now they possessed potentially crucial intelligence. The hunt was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. As they disappeared into Prague's ancient shadows, Maya realized that David's death had transformed them from hunted survivors into active participants in a shadow war that spanned continents and decades. The micro SD card might contain the key to understanding who had ordered Marcus Webb's assassination and why Operation Blackwater's secrets were worth killing for. But first, they needed to survive long enough to decrypt whatever David Kellerman had died protecting. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, ring the bell, and tell your friends about my listening library.